Hey, welcome to the show. My name's Dustin Weaver. I'm your host. This is the Refine BS podcast. We got a great episode today. We're going to talk about networking, and more importantly, going to conferences and things like that, and some tips and tricks that you need to use to build your network and to build relationships and add value to others, because that's really what a network truly is, right? A group of individuals that have come together to share resources, intellectual resources, with one another to help everyone gain and get the best footing. And that's really what a network is. So we're going to talk about what events. I attended an event recently up in Denver, and some of the tips that I put in place to ensure that my 36-hour trip there and back was going to be a success and it wasn't a waste, right? Because it takes money to get up there. You're flying up there, you're getting hotels, transportation, but more importantly, and the most valuable thing it takes is your time. You've got to take time away from your normal business activities to go to these events, and you want to ensure that you're using your time to the fullest advantage, right? So we're going to talk about tips and tricks to having a successful networking event as you go to these different conferences. And then we're going to talk about who's in your corner, who's in your network. Are they adding value? Are they adding to your life, whether that's your career, your spiritual life, your morality? Are they adding value to those things that really matter the most? So let's get going. All right, so making the most of a networking event. As I'm getting ready and preparing for a networking event, I'm looking a month or two out, or 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on how long the event is and the details that are involved in it. I'm thinking of, who do I want to try to build a relationship at this event? And more importantly, those folks that I've singled out that I want to build a relationship with, why do I want to build a relationship? Do I have something of value that I feel like they desperately need to help move their business unit along? So rule number one is, what is your value proposition? And I think that's an important term, because we all have to understand what our value proposition is. I'm in a very niche form of real estate, so we break down our services into about 5 different categories. And as I look at those different services, and I talk about, a specific service, whether it's acquisition or some type of due diligence or something like that, how do I add value to these folks? Because I don't know what their workload is. I can just assume that they're experiencing some of the same problems that my other clients are experiencing, and we found a great solution to those problems. So that's really number one, is what is your value proposition? Number 2 is reach out to individuals early, because their time is also important, right? In that time that you want to spend with them, and it doesn't have to be a night out on the town, right? We're talking about 15 minutes for coffee. We're talking about a happy hour cocktail. If there's some events planned, like we got the opportunity to go watch a Rangers game, a Rockies game at the Mile High Stadium. Really cool experience. I got to meet some great people that I wanted to be part of my network so I can continue adding value, because the network isn't all about, hey, can you give me business, right? And a lot of people think that it's all about that. It's really not. It's about the best value exchange. And some of your biggest, I think, friends, I'm going to put it as the best way it should be put, are going to be your competition. Because you can learn so much from your competition, and they can learn from you. You have different experiences. And when you come together and you put the ego aside, there are some wonderful things that you can grow your business with. And vice versa, just as important, they can grow their business. And that doesn't matter if they work for a Fortune 500 company, they're a mom and pop up the street with 4 or 5 employees, there's someone mid-level, 50 to 100 people like our firm, or they are in the middle, 500 plus, right? It does not matter. The value exchange can be the same, because people are at different places in their career and they want different things out of a relationship. And I think that's important to remember. So number one is value proposition. Number two is reach out to people early and often if you want to get some of their time. Then you need to ensure that you've got something valuable to bring, right? So one and two, they go together really well, because if I reach out to my friend, John, and I say, hey, you're going to be at the same event I'm going to be at. Let's go grab coffee one morning. I've been wanting to chat with you about a new project we've taken on. We've run into some challenges, and I want to get your feedback. He may say, oh, that's great. Yeah, I love that area. I've got a lot of experience right there. I'd love to grab some coffee. I also wanted to bounce something off of you. I haven't talked to you in a while. Boom, that's all it takes. It's a 30-second exchange, and the important part was you may ask for something, but you need to ensure that you've got something else to give, right? You give your time, your knowledge, and your experiences back to the other person. And that's truly what a network is all about. Third, at a big event, and this is, I think, most important, I went to the event by myself. There were probably 1,000 attendees, okay? However, there was not a point in the event that I was really alone. So as I'm walking to the foyer, and we're staying at a massive hotel, I saw so many acquaintances or friends that are in the business that either called me over before I even approached them, or that I walked up to their conversation and just said hello, and they were happy to engage because we hadn't got to talk in a while. There's so many things that have changed in the industry. We've got future business that's going to happen together. So keeping yourself open in attending events is important, because that's going to be an uncomfortable situation for a lot of people. First off, they don't like to go to things alone, and I think this is a mistake. If you get comfortable going to events by yourself, forcing yourself to go build a network, shake hands, smile, build some momentum, you will get that much better. If you've got a problem with creating a network, building relationships with folks that you don't know, going to events alone will force you into those positions. Most likely you're going to know someone if you've been in the business for any length of time. But more importantly, that uncomfortableness of walking into a room and not seeing any faces that you know, that's a really good feeling. And any of you out there that started this and have had that feeling, you know what I mean. It is a really good feeling, because it's a little bit of fear and anxiety and excitement. Because if you're really hopeful for the future, and God has a great future for his people, but if you're really hopeful for your future, then you will see that as the biggest opportunity to continue following your destiny. So let's recap a little bit, just the network events real fast. As you're going to network events, you've got to understand your value proposition. And I'm not talking about the gift of gab and being able to BS and all that. I mean, what is your value proposition? Because our clients are facing real problems. And I look at those real problems as an opportunity to provide them with value as I try to find solutions to their problems. We're not going to have every solution, but it's our job to come up with solutions and give them the opportunity to pick the path they want to go. So that's number one, the value proposition. Number two, reaching out to people early. You know, it really causes kind of harm and disrespect if you fly in and then you're like, hey, can we meet up, right? You're here, I'm here, you got 10 minutes. Then they kind of feel obligated to meet with you, and that's really not right. You want to have an open invitation that you are available, you would love to meet up. You understand if they're going to be busy or they're booked with something. You're willing to be flexible with your schedule. And I think that's important, understanding that their time is just as important as your time, right? And I think we forget that, right? We're self-motivated, and we're involved in other things that we're doing, and people don't understand the difficulties that we have and the things that we can solve. And that's really just not the case. And then third, when you get to that network, right, when you get to the event, Um, don't be afraid to go alone. That's where the growth happens. Don't be afraid to shake someone's hand and say hello. Don't be afraid to go up to a stranger and introduce yourself. You're not asking anything. All you're doing is being a polite person. And more importantly, being a polite person is the most important thing, right? Because the feeling that you're feeling as you walk into a room, there are a lot of people in that same room, a lot of people that are feeling the exact same way as you. And how nice is it when a stranger comes up, says hello, stretches out their hand to shake your hand, right? With a nice face. They're not asking for anything. They're literally just saying hello, and they're interested in what you do. They're not asking you to put on a show. They're not asking you to sell them anything. They're just asking, how's your trip been? What side of the business are you in? How are you doing? That is so nice. We just don't do that much in society today. You can go to coffee shops all over the United States right now. You walk in that coffee shop and people are usually headphoned up. They're in their laptops. Nobody's paying attention to anybody else. And that's it. That is it. There's no interaction. They're either involved in work, on a phone call, in social media, maybe listen to music for some of them. But they're definitely not wanting to interact with the outside world. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to interact with the outside world, and we're here to make people's lives better. That's what this podcast is all about. It's about us living the very best life that we can. And that means improving other people's lives, because we cannot live our best life unless we're helping others improve their lives as well. So that's an exciting thing. So I'm going to finish with this one caveat about a general network and what it means to me. A network is a group of people, just like I stated, right, that are equally sharing information and resources. Now, it's important to know that who you have around you and the trustworthiness and the loyalty of those people. Now, I'm talking about the general courtesies that we all have, right? If you and I are friends and you find something out about my company that I don't know about, hey, you give me a call and say, hey, I heard you guys got a new contract. Congratulations. I know you've been hustling and working hard, right? Or if my agent's calling you and they're talking about leaving, right? 100% okay. That happens. You're not going to please everyone. And that's probably the most important thing I'm going to say throughout this whole podcast. You are not going to please everyone. And if you stop trying to do that, you will be much better off. But if someone calls you and says they're leaving, you know what? Give them a call. Say, hey, they're talking about leaving. They're headed down the road onto the next project, vendor, broker, whatever it may be. 100% okay. That is this business. There is change. Change is good. My thoughts on change, people, transition, and leadership has always been this. I want to recruit the best, and I want to train the very best, and I want to pour all of my experience into those agents. I want them to stay with me because I think that we're on a beautiful ride right now as we grow this business. But at the same time, if they want to leave, then I know that I poured everything that I possibly could, meaning business, spirituality, into that person, and they're on to the world. And hopefully those skills will continue to add and add and add value that they can bring to our industry. It's about legacy building. It's not about one agent or one firm. It's about creating great people that do the job we do. So there have been a lot of law changes recently. I think that has to do partly with some of the pressures on eminent domain, because we're in that world. But some of the pressures on eminent domain, I think others are the agents have not been faithful in their task. And that becomes a sad day, right? Agents are not meeting and explaining and educating and shaking hands and looking each other in the eyes with the owners and stakeholders that we work with. And that causes a major problem. It caused such a major problem that the state of Texas Congress changed the laws because of it. And that means something, right? It meant something to me when that happened. So as we finish up this one, just remember who's in your network. Make sure that everyone in your network wants you to grow as much as you want them to grow, right? And we should all want the very best for one another. Jesus said, love thy neighbor like thyself. All right, that's the end of the podcast. Have a great rest of your week. I pray that everyone that's watching this today has a very, very blessed week and month and year. So let's keep going. Keep fighting. Keep grinding. This is the Refined BS Podcast, signing off.